English translation 164th contact. Friday, 5th March 1982, 01:18 hours.
You really have it lately with the Fridays.
It just turns out like this because the present work only allows that in each case. I can put aside more time on Fridays in order to carry on a conversation with you, while the rest of the days of the week only offer short rests, which I normally found in the center, but which, unfortunately, has been becoming more and more difficult for a long time.
You should just take more time for that.
It is not because of that, for in the center itself, there are reasons for the fact that my rest becomes more and more difficult there, and has already become almost an impossibility.
You mean that the Night Watch participants have gotten better in their attention?
No, the reason is not to be found there, for the attentiveness of various ones and the devotion to duty, as always, leaves much to be desired. Moreover, I have equipped my screening device with a new invention of mine, which I can program in each case for those on watch duty. According to which I, by the apparatus, automatically become invisible to the watch participants, together with my device, if they look in my direction.
Now something dawns on me. Some time ago, Engelbert told me that as he was coming from the garage, he saw a large figure in front of the barn, which suddenly disappeared.
That may be possible because I tested the device first. And it happened that at first, the sensors adapted themselves a bit sluggishly to the viewing swinging waves, whereby they performed the necessary manipulation just 1 to 1/2 seconds too late.
Even sensors can still sleep by Engelbert Wachter, Switzerland. A very rare and therefore rather precious experience in no less than 3 episodes in connection with our Plejaren friends, I hereby put on paper. The record should make visible that also human beings who travel in space do not simply have everything fall into their legendary lap without a lot of sweat and effort. As we all know in Billy's group, it was and is of vital importance for his Plejaren friends to arm themselves with a device that could be roughly described as a sight and swinging wave protection device when making personal inspection trips to planets. This is a device that was developed a very long time ago, especially as a sight and swinging wave protection. On the one hand, for personal protection for space travelers who are foreign to the planet, and on the other hand, as protection against sight in the case of unexpected personal contacts with planetarians. That is to say, with human beings of a foreign planet who have not yet evolved to a great extent. At the beginning, his friends always carried this rather heavy and bulky thing around with them, like an overfilled shopping bag, but not for Billy's presence. Now we knew from cozy conversations with Billy that Quetzal was tired of lugging around this monstrosity of a protective device during contacts, and that he had decided some time ago to develop a new, much smaller, and above all, lighter device with even better properties. According to Billy, the new device would in future be no bigger than a packet of cigarettes and could then also be worn by female space travelers on a belt around the waist. Unfortunately, the exact date has slipped my mind, but it occurred to me that I still had some personal work to do in our garage, a kind of hobby room for me. So I marched cheerfully through the front door and the porch, which Billy let his group make for safety reasons in the early days of the center's life, and stepped outside. Looking in the direction of the garage, I immediately saw a large man who was obviously in a hurry to disappear behind the garage. But what was that? He had not yet reached the building protecting him from view, and was still at least a meter short of the wall. Then suddenly he was simply gone, just as Billy had disappeared from the roof of the coach house or from his workroom back then. He was gone, just like that, and without having really reached the protective wall of the garage. This occurrence began to arouse curiosity in me and to crank up my train of thought about who this man might have been. But soon I turned to my actual work, which also wanted to be done. A short time later, after about 2 weeks, I was walking in the direction of my car in the Remise car park, and for about 2 seconds I spotted a man again between the cars parked in rows, who had just disappeared behind a car in a stooped position. My immediate check behind the car brought no result. But now it began to dawn on me. Did not Quetzal want to develop a new, much smaller and above all lighter sight and swinging wave protection device and put it to use as quickly as possible? And again, a few days passed, and were they coincidences? On my way to my car, I did not notice a man for a fraction of a second, but only an almost invisible shadow of a human figure. It has to be said at this point, without wanting to step on the toes of somewhat sensitive human beings, that such sighting situations, especially by human beings without a trained eye, are either not noticed or hardly registered. Where else? We ask ourselves in retrospect, would the test series of a newly developed super sight and swinging wave protection device have been better carried out than in our center, where the tester could be more certain than anywhere else that human beings who suddenly come face to face with a human being appearing as if from nowhere would not run around screaming or otherwise go crazy? For Quetzal, his enormous effort has now paid off, because in a relatively short time, he has managed to wake up the still sleeping sensors of the brand new device and bring them up to speed. Congratulations.
Hence, it might be possible that Engelbert could observe me for a very short time. But in truth, the reason why rest becomes more and more impossible for me in the center does not lie with the watch participants. I am very sorry about this because the center has become a real home to me, and I truly feel very comfortable there.
That pleases me tremendously, my friend. But now, I no longer understand why a stay in the center should become impossible for you.
The reason does not lie with a group member.
Then probably foreign elements which are not seen by the night watchers must roam around.
That is, indeed, the case every now and then, especially on the promontory and on the new road on the slope. For various watch participants do not fulfill their duty there, as well as not on the promontory, where, incidentally, the defective fence becomes penetrated. Nevertheless, these strangers, who are sometimes well known to me, do not disturb me because I am also protected against them. They also cannot see me.
Then I understand nothing more at all. Tell me at last, where are the difficulties to be found?
The difficulties are to be found in the swinging waves. My device only works properly in reference to the shielding of swinging waves and their neutralization, if the group members of the watch, etc., are not approaching me in a range closer than 70 centimeters. But with a few group members, this distance is even further, so around 6 meters, namely with Dorrit, Thomas, and Margaret. While with Elsa, even a distance of more than 7 meters is given, which is not surprising, however, because her mindset towards me is no less filled with strange hostility than it is towards you. A fact that she, nevertheless, will not admit, even though she does everything to let it be made known by scurrilous words against you and me, for she simply cannot take the truth, even though she could if she would finally be honest to herself. All that, however, causes no difficulties for me, for I have constructed my device in such a manner that upon approaches of individual group members and according to their swinging wave ranges that are dangerous for me, I am automatically removed from the danger zone by the device as soon as the persons concerned come closer to me than the safety threshold of 38 centimeters beyond the distance of the swinging wave measurement that is dangerous for me. The mechanical possibilities for such manipulations, however, lie in an area with a maximum of 9 meters, so I can therefore protect myself in this manner up to this distance. If I would now find myself somewhere where I have no exact overview, thus I cannot see a threat early on when someone approaches me, having swinging waves that are dangerous for me and that are beyond the 9-meter distance, then it could be fatal for me. If I stand or sit somewhere and someone approaches me, whose danger limit for me is beyond the 9 meters mentioned, then everything would lead to a bad end.
But you still have the alarm device that warns you about it when someone is within 500 meters.
The stronger energies of my device make the function of this warning device impossible.
But then, why does your bucket function with strangers when they are standing on the promontory or on the new path, etc.?
From a 14-meter radius from my person, an apparatus in my flying apparatus takes over the monitoring. If a corresponding warning arises, then this is transmitted to my carrying device, through which this enters into function without any time delay. But now, if someone moves in the circle between 9 and 14 meters around me and is dangerous for me in their swinging waves in this 9 to 14 meter circle, then there is no protection, but only mortal danger.
But why do you leave this 4 or 5 meter circle open? You could nevertheless also protect yourself for this distance, right?
Unfortunately, no. For the time being, the possibility with a carrying device is still fully exhausted at 9 meters, in reference to its function. But after this distance, there must be a neutral ring of at least 4 meters, so that the energies and surveillance equipment of my aircraft can operate and work. If this safety belt did not exist, then the energies of my carrying device and those of the ship would collide with each other or overflow into one another, through which a destruction of the equipment would come about.
So no advantage without disadvantage.
That is of correctness. We also have these problems.
But I do not yet understand who among us is a danger for you. You said yourself that the extreme danger of a little over 7 meters lies with our people.
I told you, however, that someone else is present, who is to be reckoned as outside of the group members.
I do not understand that.
You.
Vous?
That is of correctness, and he is a constant and ever-increasing danger for me. In the extreme case, he may only come 13 meters and 71 centimeters close to me. Closer than this mark, I run a great risk.
That is puzzling to me.
His sense towards us is not good. It is even strangely hostile and interspersed with thoughts that exhibit doubts regarding our actual existence. This also often comes to expression more in gatherings with his acquaintances and so-called friends, but who are truly no friends to him. In addition to these facts is also the fact that he does rather strange things that are not right, and that would have to be punished according to our terms, and, by the way, also on the earth, as corresponding regulations are given for this. But about this, I will still have to tell you some things later in secrecy, which will not exactly be pleasing to you. However, these are not matters that fall within our direct realm. What is objectionable to us is this: we have also contributed our good part for your center, and we also cherished the joy that we could feel at home there. This has actually so happened over time, not only with me, as also Plagia. And Sim Ya Se, as well as various others, found the center as their home over time, according to which we stayed in there very often, though unobserved, especially at night time, when the swinging waves of the group members are better. But for a long time, this has been prevented to us more and more by W and his acquaintances. For safety reasons for you in the center, as well as for the rest of the group members present there, the ordinal rule was issued that as of midnight, A watch is to be carried out until dawn, during which time no other persons should wander around anymore in the open, except in special cases, as it was established in writing. But W adheres to this in no wise, for at all hours of the night he is to be found everywhere in the open, often truthfully searching for you and us, which you call by the expression spying. Also, he often takes night trips with his motor vehicle, and sometimes strange things happen, even during the early morning hours between midnight and 4 And even though he is not counted among the group members, I have made some findings concerning him in the last 12 months, which yielded rather unpleasant results. Thus, I also made the unpleasant finding that he is extremely unwilling to work and keeps himself away from a work commitment by various means, and even falsehoods are used to justify himself. Even illnesses, etc., are pleaded by him, which only serve the purpose of keeping himself away from work. In this regard, I even observed him feigning an alleged illness during working hours, in order then, when it became night and the required work time was over, to become very lively and drive out into the night with his motor vehicle. This is absolutely incomprehensible to me because this is not a right and honest doing. In addition, a man at this age should have already developed his sense of duty and his honesty so far that he is obliged to a daily work. The parents should therefore let more sense of the enforcement of rights prevail in this respect, but not too great softness, as this is done, unfortunately, from a misunderstood sense of family. In our circle, we have discussed these issues in detail, and we concluded that a change and improvement can probably only be given to these grievances if the parents bring a degree of hardness to application, which can, nevertheless, lead to the fact that W leaves his parents' house, which would by no means be bad, for he would thereby force himself to cope with his life by his own initiative. His current wrongdoing, however, lets the danger be seen that he, in such an ongoing case, would still commit even greater abuses, which could lead him into the determinations of the earthly laws and into the judge's premises. This was explained as a warning to the parents, if they do not immediately take the necessary changes. Hence, it should not be seen as a remonstrance or the like, but only as an admonition and guidance.
That will not make either parent very happy. And what is the situation with W regarding the group admission?
It will not be pleasant for the two of them, but we cherish the expectation that they will understand my and our admonition and will understand that it solely concerns well-meant advice and the given facts. We expect, however, that at least the abuses of the night excursions, visits, and the searches for you and for us will be prevented from now on. We truly do not want to do without the center and want to be able to move about there freely. On the other hand, it is also a need for us to be in the vicinity of the group members living there, even if only at a distance and from time to time. We feel a certain comradely attachment to all the group members, even with Elsa and 2 others who are not friendly or loving-minded toward us. But concerning an admission of W as a group member, the following is to be explained. Formerly, as another personality, he was, indeed, a distant member of a group under your leadership. But in his present life thus far, it has arisen, through all sorts of negative changes, etc., that for the time being, no such thought may be entertained. First, he would truly have to recognize the truth and fulfill his duties, but this will still require many years of time.
That is unpleasant.
But unfortunately, it is not to change.
Can we leave this subject now?
I have no further explanations to give.
That reassures me. It would be a little more gratifying if you could exactly explain to me again how things are now with this big dark cloud that moves high above the Earth, as you briefly indicated to me last Monday afternoon.
As you wish.
Yes, but something else just came to me. Somehow it seems to be illogical to me concerning W, that you cannot shield yourself against him. I think that beyond the 14-meter limit, your apparatuses in the spaceship react, through which you will be taken out of danger?
Unfortunately, that is impossible, because in regards to W, I must store him programmatically in my apparatuses and devices, according to which he does not fall within the range of the warning of strangers. But if I would store him as a stranger, then he would be removed from the closeness warning. Unfortunately, these devices cannot be constructed differently, at least not for the time being.
Now I understand. Then tell me now what the case is with the dark cloud.
This dust cloud formation moves in a wavering height, between 17,000 and 23,000 meters of altitude around the Earth. It does not come from the Earth itself, but from an active volcano on the moon, Io, which orbits around Jupiter. There was a very violent eruption, which now dates back more than 2,190 years, and which flung enormous amounts of ash dust into outer space. As a huge cloud, this ash dust drifted through space for many years, where it slowly but steadily approached Earth's orbit. 64 days ago, it had gone so far that the cloud drifted directly into Earth's orbit, just as the Earth itself also glided into the same point. Thus, the cloud of ash dust was captured by the forces of the Earth and circles since then at the aforementioned height around the Earth.
This cloud was found in the meantime by scientists. It was, at any rate, in the newspaper. But it seemed to take a little while before they could find the thing, and that only happened by a coincidence. Moreover, the scientists think that the cloud is a product that comes from an earthly and unobserved volcanic eruption.
That is absurd because the earthly monitoring instruments of seismology alone would have recorded such enormous volcanic activity. Such an absurd supposition is therefore senseless.
I think so too, but what the heck? The Earth scientists have always had a suitable excuse at hand.
Unfortunately, that usually results from a lack of understanding. This fact is known to us very well. But now it is about that time for me again. But before I go, I again have to address some concerns that are of importance. Concerning Ingrid, I thoroughly strove for everything again, according to which I must explain that my words from last Friday are not to be judged as mildly as they were. My words are meant very seriously, and a part of her Wesen, inner core nature, actually corresponds to those descriptions, which I brought into use. This also arises in relation to the treatment of her children, whom she often engages aggressively and reprimands with unnecessarily loud words and reproaches. Also, in reference to her work ethic and willingness to work, I have exercised analytical activities, and I have to recognize that in these matters she is too easily entrenched behind her erroneous nature of womanhood. Also, this error should be corrected by her, and she must also fix certain wrong ideas that prevent her from engaging in a meaningful activity. Furthermore, the time also begins for her, like also for Elizabeth, with the date of the 6th of March, in which she has to adapt herself into the duties, in accordance with the regulations, statutes, and the ordinal rules as well as house rules. This means that the monthly 8-hour work requirement must be fulfilled, as well as the maintaining of the night watch, where the latter falls into the determination area of Eva, who regulates this activity. In this regard, concerning the night watch, I had, moreover, declared some time ago that an inspection must be carried out because this duty is neglected by various group members. This inspection must now be introduced, and it must also be ensured that the necessary patrols actually take place and that those on watch duty do not simply spend their watch time in the kitchen or in their rooms. If the inspector finds further misconduct in those on watch duty, then these have to be sanctioned in accordance with the statutes. But now, to conclude the matters concerning Ingrid, it is still to be mentioned that it also applies to her that with longer stays at the center, in each case, she has to be involved in all daily resulting works, as the people responsible for this determine. This is also valid for the journey days, and for her, a time of 60 minutes may be granted up to the beginning of work, because of the children. The same regulation is also valid for Elizabeth. Regarding Ferdinand, I now have to explain that I have clearly established in the meantime that several of his wrong actions, without a doubt, trace back to the fact that Ingrid inspires him to do such or even impels him to do such in an excessively commanding fashion. This does, of course, change some things in favor of Ferdinand, who is truly making much more effort to act rightfully than what superficial impressions first suggested, before I found out that Ingrid was often the driving force behind the evil. So you can inform him that as a result of the wrong actions in reference to the mission, much has been shown to be revoked. So I am personally trying hard, and indeed on my own responsibility, to helpfully assist him according to the best of means. I am doing this, in particular, because I could personally experience with him that he is truthfully of the best intentions to exert himself in all interests, which he also reveals by his works, as you also explained to me, and thus are very satisfied. To these facts we must be responsive and show consideration, and therefore we must also helpfully assist him in his efforts.
Man, oh man, this pleases me tremendously. I have had serious thoughts about this in recent days.
That is known to me, but now my time is really scarce.
Then you just go, you rabble-rouser. Bye then, and let everyone be greeted rather nicely by me and all group members.
The joy will be theirs. Till we meet again, I will probably already visit you again on Saturday or Sunday.
Take care.